Today, we're examining 4 cases of basketball players who traded their jerseys for prison uniforms. Men whose actions shocked communities and revealed the fragile boundary between hero and criminal. Before we begin, if you're interested in true crime stories that explore the psychology behind the headlines, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth documentaries. Case 1. Javaris Crittenton. In August 2011, a residential street in southwest Atlanta became the scene of a senseless tragedy that would end an NBA career and an innocent life. Javaris Crittenton, a former first-round draft pick who had once shared the court with Kobe Bryant, was accused of opening fire in a neighborhood retaliation shooting that killed 22-year-old Julian Jones, a young mother who was walking with her infant child and had no connection to the violence that claimed her life. Crittenton's basketball credentials told a story of promise and potential. The point guard from Georgia Tech was selected 19th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2007 NBA draft, a dream come true for the Atlanta native. He played for multiple teams including the Lakers, Grizzlies, and Wizards, earning millions and living the life many only fantasize about. But beneath the surface, Crittenton never fully distanced himself from the street culture that had surrounded his upbringing in Atlanta's challenging neighborhoods. How does someone who achieved their childhood dream become consumed by the very environment they were supposed to escape? The events of that August evening were as tragic as they were avoidable. According to prosecutors, Crittenton had been robbed of jewelry in a previous incident and was seeking revenge. On August 19th, armed and driven by retaliation, he drove through the neighborhood and opened fire on a group of people he believed included the person who had robbed him. His shots missed the intended target entirely. Instead, they struck Julian Jones, a 22-year-old mother of 4, who collapsed on the street while still holding her baby. She died shortly after, while her child survived physically unharmed but forever marked by the trauma. Crittenton fled immediately, triggering a massive manhunt that stretched across state lines. He was eventually apprehended at a California airport and extradited back to Georgia to face justice. The case drew national attention, not just because of his NBA pedigree, but because it highlighted the deadly intersection of ego, street credibility, and access to firearms. The legal proceedings painted a damning portrait. In April 2015, Crittenton pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and received a 23-year prison sentence. During the hearing, prosecutors detailed how his obsession with maintaining a tough reputation had overridden any sense of responsibility or consequences. His attorneys argued he never intended to kill Jones, but the court emphasized that his decision to arm himself and fire into a crowd demonstrated a reckless disregard for human life. Julian Jones's family delivered heartbreaking victim impact statements, describing a vibrant young woman whose life was stolen for no reason at all. Crittenton's fall from NBA prospect to convicted felon became a cautionary tale about unfinished business with one's past. But as devastating as his actions were, our next case would reveal how a tragic accident and a subsequent cover-up can transform a former star into a convicted criminal. Case 2. Jayson Williams. In February 2002, a sprawling mansion in Alexandria Township, New Jersey, became the setting for a death that would dismantle the life of former NBA All-Star Jayson Williams. The 6 feet 10 inches power forward, celebrated for his rebounding dominance and his 9-year career with the New Jersey Nets, was entertaining guests when he began showing off his extensive firearms collection. What started as an evening of bravado ended with a shotgun blast that killed 55-year-old Gus Christophy, a hired limousine driver, and triggered a cover-up attempt that would define Williams's criminal legacy. Williams had lived the NBA dream in full. Drafted by the Phoenix Suns in 1990 and traded to the Nets, he became one of the league's premier rebounders, averaging a double-double during his peak years and earning an $86 million contract extension in 1998. After a devastating leg injury ended his playing career in 2000, he transitioned into broadcasting and seemed destined for a comfortable post-basketball life. He was charismatic, wealthy, and beloved by Nets fans. But that February night revealed a reckless side that had been lurking beneath the surface. What compels someone to prioritize self-preservation over accountability when another human being lies dead? According to courtroom testimony, Williams was giving a tour of his gun collection when he picked up a Browning 12-gauge shotgun. While handling the weapon, it discharged, striking Crittenton in the chest at close range and killing him almost instantly. But instead of immediately calling for help and taking responsibility, Williams and several people present allegedly engaged in a deliberate cover-up. They wiped down the shotgun to remove fingerprints, placed it near Crittenton's body, and attempted to make the scene appear as though the driver had committed suicide. When police arrived, the inconsistencies were immediately apparent to investigators. The subsequent investigation painted a disturbing picture. Williams had been drinking heavily that evening. Witnesses described his increasingly erratic behavior with the firearms and the panic that ensued after the shooting. Multiple people present that night later testified about the coordinated effort to manipulate the crime scene. What might have been prosecuted as a tragic accident was transformed by the cover-up into evidence of consciousness of guilt and obstruction of justice. The legal battle stretched across multiple years and trials. In 2004, a jury deadlocked on the most serious charge of aggravated manslaughter, resulting in a mistrial on that count. However, Williams was convicted on 4 counts of cover-up related charges, including tampering with evidence and witness tampering. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but served only 27 months before being released in 2007. Williams's troubles didn't end there. In 2010, he was arrested for driving while intoxicated and subsequently crashed his vehicle into a tree. This incident violated his parole, and he was sent back to prison to serve the remainder of his original sentence. He was finally released in April 2012, but his reputation was destroyed, his broadcasting career was over, and the Crittenton family was left with an irreplaceable loss. They eventually received a wrongful death settlement, but no amount of money could restore their loved one. Williams's case became a stark lesson in how privilege, panic, and poor decisions can compound a tragedy into a crime. But wealth and fame weren't the only factors we'd encounter. Our next story would show how domestic violence can escalate to attempted murder. These cases reveal the darkest intersections of sports, psychology, and crime. If you're finding this documentary compelling, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We cover cases that demand deeper understanding, not just headlines. Case 3, Darius Miles. In January 2023, the campus of the University of Alabama was rocked by a shooting incident that would end a promising basketball career and result in murder charges. Darius Miles, a freshman forward for the Alabama Crimson Tide men's basketball team, was arrested and charged with capital murder in connection with the shooting death of 23-year-old Jamia Janae Harris near the university campus. The case sent shockwaves through college basketball and raised serious questions about athlete accountability and campus safety. Miles had been a highly touted recruit, ranked among the top high school players in the nation before committing to Alabama. He represented the hopes and dreams of his family and community, and his scholarship was supposed to be a pathway to a better life and potentially an NBA career. He had played in 6 games during his freshman season before being sidelined by an ankle injury. But in the early morning hours of January 15, 2023, his basketball future would end permanently. How does a young athlete with everything to gain become involved in a senseless act of violence? According to investigators and court testimony, the incident began near the university's campus around 1:45 a.m. when Miles and his friend, Michael Lynn Davis, were allegedly involved in an altercation. Jamia Harris was a passenger in a vehicle driven by her boyfriend when, according to prosecutors, Miles provided Davis with the handgun that was used in the shooting. Davis allegedly fired into the vehicle, striking Harris multiple times. She was transported to a hospital but died from her injuries. Her boyfriend, also injured in the shooting, survived. The investigation moved quickly. Tuscaloosa police reviewed surveillance footage, interviewed witnesses, and traced the weapon. Both Miles and Davis were arrested within hours. Prosecutors charged both men with capital murder under Alabama law, which allows for capital murder charges when a death occurs during certain felonies, including when a deadly weapon is provided to another person who commits the murder. The university immediately removed Miles from the basketball team, and his scholarship was terminated. The legal proceedings revealed disturbing details about the events leading up to the shooting. Prosecutors argued that Miles had knowingly provided Davis with the firearm and was an active participant in the confrontation that led to Harris's death. Text messages and witness statements painted a picture of escalating tensions and poor decision-making. The defense attempted to argue that Miles didn't anticipate the shooting and shouldn't be held responsible for Davis's actions, but the prosecution maintained that providing the weapon made him legally culpable. As of the most recent proceedings, Miles remains incarcerated awaiting trial. If convicted of capital murder in Alabama, he faces either life in prison without parole or the death penalty. The case is still working its way through the court system, with pretrial motions and hearings ongoing. Jamia Harris's family has spoken publicly about their devastating loss, describing a young woman who was pursuing her education, working as a mother, and had her entire future ahead of her. Miles's case serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly lives can be derailed by violence and poor choices. But our final case would demonstrate how repeated criminal behavior and an inability to change can lead to serious prison time. Case 4. Sebastian Telfair. In June 2017, a routine traffic stop on the Belt Parkway in Brooklyn would expose the persistent criminal behavior of Sebastian Telfair. The former NBA point guard, once hailed as the next great talent from New York City's legendary basketball pipeline, was arrested after police discovered a loaded semi-automatic pistol, a loaded rifle, a large quantity of ammunition, and a bulletproof vest in his vehicle. This wasn't Telfair's first encounter with the law, and it would finally result in serious prison time. Telfair's basketball story had begun with enormous promise and intense media attention. Growing up in Coney Island's notorious housing projects, he became a high school legend at Abraham Lincoln High School, following in the footsteps of his cousin, NBA star Stephon Marbury. Telfair was so highly regarded that he was featured in a documentary while still a teenager and graced the cover of Slam magazine. In 2004, he made the controversial decision to skip college and enter the NBA draft, where he was selected 13th overall by the Portland Trail Blazers. Over his 10-year NBA career, he played for 8 different teams, earning millions of dollars, though he never quite lived up to the sky-high expectations. Why do some athletes, even after achieving success, remain tethered to the dangerous mentality of the streets that raised them? The 2017 arrest was particularly problematic because Telfair was on probation at the time for a previous gun possession charge. When officers pulled him over for speeding and discovered the arsenal in his Ford F-150 pickup truck, including a stolen Ruger .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, his explanations rang hollow. Together, these stories force us to confront difficult questions about how we celebrate athletes, about the unresolved traumas and influences that follow talented individuals even after they achieve success, and about the responsibilities that come with being given a platform and resources. They remind us that athletic ability says nothing about character, and that the distance between the court and the cell block can be tragically short. If this video has given you insight into the complex realities behind the headlines, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth true crime content, and share your thoughts in the comments below. These cases may be concluded, but the lessons they teach remain urgently relevant.